Good morning and welcome everyone to our webinar on seniors bullying, what is happening in Ontario. I am joined today by Kirsten Madsen and Patricia Spadafora. And today we're really excited to share with you some of the research that we'll be doing in terms of seniors bullying in Ontario. I'm Rochelle Vassal and I'm the Central West Regional Consultant with Elder Abuse Ontario, and I will be moderating this webinar. So just a reminder, everyone that is attending is muted. We will have 30 minutes at the end of the session for you to type in any questions. If you notice for those of you that are joining online, you do have a toolbar on the right-hand side, and you have an option to send a question through the question box, or if you're having any technical issues, you can send a chat directed to myself. I show up as Mary Mead. So send the chat message to Mary Mead / Rochelle Vassal. At the end of the session, you will be prompted to fill out an evaluation. If you're not able to fill it out at that time, you will also receive an email link to complete the evaluation. And this is really important for us in terms of future webinars and the speakers that we choose. In the slides, you will have the contact information for both Pat and Kirsten, so you can connect with them directly. Also, if you notice, if you look in the toolbar, if you go to handouts, the slides are actually there. So for those of you that want to download it, go to the handout section and the PDF copy of the slides are there for you. We will also be posting the recording and the PDF copy of the slides on our website in a couple of weeks. And we will also send all of the registered attendees a PDF copy of the slides via email. So I'm really excited to have Dr. Kirsten Madsen with us. We've been working with her for a couple of years. You actually spoke at our provincial conference, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. And you have extensive experience working in the bullying field. And, you've done a lot of, work in terms of anti-bullying strategies with youth. And you've been working on this project with us. I think we're going on 2 years now. And so you are a lead researcher, and we were very fortunate that you were able to, make the application and, cement our partnership with Sheridan College, Elder Abuse Ontario, and for us to get the funding through the Social Sciences and Humanities Grant. And we're also joined today by Pat Spadafora, who is with Kaleidoscope Consulting, and you're the former founder and director of the Center for Elder Research through Sheridan College. And you had founded that center back in 2003, and you only recently, retired, quote unquote, from the Center for Elder Research, and now you have your own business at Kaleidoscope Consulting. So you and Kirsten have been working with each other for many years, and we're really excited, Pat, to have you as one of the lead researchers on this project as well. So without further ado, I know the bios are there, but I don't like to read the bios. People can read for themselves. But we're so excited to be working on this project with you, because all of the consultants have been getting so many requests from people in the community in terms of bullying and seniors bullying each other. And they are, concerned about the issue, and they're also concerned about, what can they do in terms of addressing this issue. And so, there's tons and tons of research. If we look at the states, tons and tons of research on the prevalence of bullying. And so we really are excited to look at, what's going on here in Canada, and more specifically in Ontario. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Kirsten.
Okay, and my slide, are we on slide 4 now?
Yes.
Because it's not showing up on my screen, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, hold on. Let me just check. Pat, can you see the slides?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so
And
just
we're on
try.
yeah,
Okay.
I think we're on the right slide 4.
Okay. So the other thing is if you can't see the slides, sometimes, you know, if we are toggling back and forth with different things on our computer, if you go to the blue flower, it will actually bring up my screen. Oh, and I think we have lost Kirsten. So Pat, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. All right. And Kirsten can come back in as soon as she's back online. Thanks, Rochella, for your introduction today. It's one of the first things I've done under Kaleidoscope, actually, because I think my affiliation is still very much with Sheridan. But today we're going to be talking about senior bullying and what's happening in Ontario. And you can change the slide. I know Kirsten was going to speak to this one, but in her absence, I can talk to it as well. I was recently traveling on vacation, actually, when earlier in May, this headline really grabbed my attention coming out of San Francisco. It was talking about senior bullying and calling it the battlefield that we're seeing in senior centers. The article itself, which participants may want to search out, talked about unwanted turning away people from cafeteria tables, fist fights over karaoke, dances where there was gossip occurring, and really a clique system that can occur anywhere. The article further talks about the 30th Street Center in San Francisco partnering with a local nonprofit, the Institute on Aging, to develop an anti-bullying program. In that article, you'll see Robin Boniface from Arizona, who Kirst will talk about, I think, in a few minutes, saying that existing studies suggest that about 1 in 5 seniors encounters bullying, and Robin's work has informed our work as well. You'll see much more interest in this area, I think, at this point in time, and many more newspaper articles, magazine articles. But this one particularly grabbed our attention, and we thought would be a good way to start the webinar today. Slide. So people have tried very hard to respond to this issue, and Rochella, you mentioned that in the networks they're hearing more about this from the community. But to date, the research and the information we have is still pretty anecdotal and or limited. I'm going to just, can you bring in the first 3? Robin, Wood, and Trumpeter. You'll see that there's some work, these are just examples of work that is going on in the States, primarily in residential settings, nursing homes, or long-term care homes, as we would call them in Canada. And then closer to home, if you can bring in, thank you, the reference to Bonnie McCutcheon. I'm not going to talk a lot about this right now because when I look at the importance of the study and additional background, I want to give really a huge shout out to Bonnie, whom I believe is on the call today, and the work that was done in Ottawa. So we'll come back to that slide or that topic, Rochella. So this morning, what we're here to discuss is a prevalence study that represents a partnership between Sheridan College and Elder Abuse Ontario. We want to understand a lot more about what is happening in Ontario, bring the research home, and with the results from this study, we plan to create a resource package that outlines best practices for older adults themselves, but also those who work with older adults to stop bullying. And that, I believe, represents many of you who are on the call today. So thank you for joining us. Slide. Today's objectives are pretty straightforward. We want to make sure we leave lots of time for questions and answers. We want to introduce ourselves. I'm going to briefly describe the Center for Elder Research, talk a little bit about the background for this prevalence study, talk about the importance of the partnership between Sheridan and Elder Abuse Ontario. Kirsten will talk about, present a definition to you of senior bullying and the definitions that we're using in this research. and the need for a common understanding about what constitutes senior bullying. She will outline the prevalence study and then explain the process that we will use going forward. So please, as we're talking this morning, make sure you note any questions that you have, and that we'll answer them for you later in the talk. Slide. I'm not sure where our leader, are you back, Kirst?
Yes, just so you know, I'm back. I'm at
Okay,
the
Kirst, do you want to introduce
technology.
do you want to introduce the team then? We're on the Meet the Team slide.
Oh no, you go ahead and finish taking over your,
Okay,
I'll
I'll
take
just
over
keep
again
going.
on 15. Don't worry, go ahead.
So technology is wonderful when it works, right, Kirsten?
Yes, yes.
So you'll see on the slide here the team from Sheridan and the team from Elder Abuse, Ontario. So you've met Kirsten, Catherine, Jordan, Rebecca are also from Sheridan. And you'll note there that Kirsten is in the process right now of recruiting and hiring a project manager for the study. And Rochella, Ryan, and Stephanie are representatives on the team from Elder Abuse, Ontario. I'm not quite sure where I fit. I'm there, I see, as a co-investigator, but I have a long history with Sheridan, and I also, you may not know, have a long history with Elder Abuse Ontario. It's at least 16 years ago, I think now, that I was the director when it was called the Ontario Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse, so I have a long history in that area as well. But right now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Center for Elder Research. I was saying before we started today that I'm astounded that in September 3rd, actually, the center will celebrate its 15th anniversary as an on-campus research center located at Sheridan's Oakville campus. It seems like we were just planning for the 10th anniversary yesterday, and here we are 5 years later. So the center is one of the centers of excellence for research at Sheridan College. And you'll see the formal mission statement on your slide there, where we say I still affiliate with the center. The center conducts innovative lab-to-life research that enhances the quality of life of older adults. At the same time, the center serves as an education and resource hub for Sheridan and the broader community. That mission statement tells you only so much, though, and I just want to point out a couple of other things that I may come back to about the center that it really is known for. And I would say that one of the things that it is known for is the commitment that the center has to developing collaborative partnerships with community organizations, with business and industry, with educational institutions, and with other research centers. The focus really is on knowledge translation and creating practical solutions to everyday problems that people may encounter. And keep that in mind, because I think it will become relevant when I talk with you a little bit later about additional background to the current study. There's nobody on this call today that doesn't or isn't aware that we have an aging population, but I just want to spend really 3 slides just highlighting some of these demographic shifts for us, because I think they really inform what we're doing today. So 1 year earlier than was forecast, in 2015, Canada recorded more adults over the age of 65 than children under the age of 14. And that was originally forecast to occur in 2016. The 2011 census, which has reported more people over 100 than ever before, and you'll see on that slide that there are many women in that particular group. The number of people over 65 we expect could double in the next 25 years, but the fastest growing group is actually in the 85 plus. Slide. So why is it important to investigate the prevalence of senior bullying? One of the reasons that I'll talk about at this point in the webinar is just that very reality that we live in an era of longevity. We have the number of older adults is increasing. Our life expectancy has increased dramatically, as you'll see on this slide, from about 57, and you'll see that in 1921, to over 80 in 2011. So just by sheer numbers, we're compelled to really do something about this. Slide. And one more slide looking at demographics, because it's a bit more current than the previous one, would be that the projected life expectancy at birth in 2013, you'll see for men in Canada is about 83.9 months. And for women, it's 87.1. So it's really increased dramatically. Slide. Just looking at additional background, the very fact that you have signed to participate in this webinar today indicates to me that you're aware that senior to senior bullying is a very real concern. But as Rochelle had mentioned earlier, and when she talked about Kirst's background, much of the bullying research has focused on children and on youth. And the research, solid research about bullying among older adults has been virtually ignored. With a rapidly aging population, as I just mentioned, we frankly can't afford to ignore this any longer. We really must develop ways to identify and better support older adults who are at risk. This is where I want to come back to Bonnie and the Ottawa group, because the genesis of the current research really lay with the work and the groundwork that you laid for us in Ottawa. I was saying to Kirsten and Rochelle earlier today that I recall actually the restaurant I was sitting at when this came to me in Ottawa. So for those of you on the line from Ottawa today, I was sitting in a restaurant on Preston Drive in Little Italy with a colleague, and she was telling me about the work that Bonnie and her colleagues were doing in Ottawa. While I had had a long history of involvement with elder abuse in Ontario, I have to tell you, this was a little bit of a eureka moment for me, because while I had focused on specific forms of elder abuse, I have to be honest, I hadn't focused a lot at that point in time on thinking about bullying between adults. And my colleague very kindly introduced me to Bonnie subsequent to that dinner on Preston Drive. And Bonnie, I really want to acknowledge you and your work, because you were so absolutely generous in sharing everything from the Ottawa work, including the survey that you had conducted. And when the SSHRC, Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council funding opportunity came up, it seemed like a natural fit to be able to talk with Kirsten about applying for this grant to build on her expertise and experience with youth bullying, building on your work in Ottawa, and then subsequently the partnership with the Elder Abuse Network. I can't stress that partnership enough, because I believe that none of us can do this alone. And what the partnership does for me is it represents a very fine example of a community and college partnership, where each partner brings something very unique and special to the table, but represents something that neither of us could do without the other. So I am very grateful to the Elder Abuse Ontario Network and the networks throughout Ontario, and those of you who are on the line today. You are in the front line there. And one of the things that Sheridan and the center are really known for is that applied community-based research, something that's really going to make a difference and will in the end provide you and other stakeholders with tools that you will be able to use in your everyday lives, and then hopefully then to really have a very positive impact on reducing senior to senior bullying. Slide. And with this slide, I will turn it over to our fearless leader.
Who has had technical difficulty. I do apologize for that, and thank you so much, Pat, for taking over. I really, really appreciate it. And as Pat had said, that it's very much, you can tell it's a concern with regard to senior bullying has hit the headlines. But that said, the literature to date is quite sparse, And it's really important to have a solid understanding of what actually is happening in order to respond to it. And to be able to do that, we need to do a survey. And with regard to the survey itself, we had to formulate a definition to be able to guide people, because obviously bullying can mean so many different things for so many different people. But we took this definition based on existing definitions for children, youth, bullying in the workplace, and also indirect aggression, and how it's grown up out of the bullying literature for over, I'm dating myself because I worked with the first English-speaking bullying project, so over 25 years. And the definition that we're going to be using is, bullying is sometimes called harassment and happens when someone hurts, intimidates, or scares a peer consciously or unconsciously. Because people can engage in bullying behavior and not realize that's what they're actually doing, but for the person on the receiving end, it's clear that it's bullying. It's when someone is being bullied, they often have a hard time defending themselves, and bullying is usually not a one-time event. It can happen over and over again. Now, one of the things that we've done with regard to this is we have added a disclaimer on the bottom just to make it clear for people that this survey relates to bullying, which is based on peer-to-peer interactions and not perpetuated by a person who is in a position of trust. So that would be with regard to needing to be reported with regard to abuse. That said, if somebody is completing the survey and they feel that in fact what they are experiencing is also abuse that is being perpetrated by a person of trust, that at the end of the survey we have contact information for who that person can contact in order to report that, just as a safety measure. This definition that we've put together has been not only with existing literature, but also I had the opportunity to speak to Bonnie about it, and consultation with Deborah Pepler from the Bullying PrevNet group as well, so that we could land on something that was large enough to resonate, but still that it was clear that it was around bullying. But you'll see in the survey there are questions to fine-tune more and to find out more what behaviors are happening. Slide, please. So the project aims for this particular project is we want to collect data on the prevalence and nature of senior-to-senior bullying in Ontario. Because truly to be able to do something, we need to have an understanding of what's happening. A lot of times there's sort of knee-jerk reactions where people put the cart before the horse and make recommendations for intervention and prevention, which is it's just natural for people to do that. But to really be able to respond to it, it's a good idea to collect data and have a better understanding of what's happening, how it's happening, and things like that. So we're going to be collecting data on the prevalence and nature of senior-to-senior bullying. No. Hello? Hello?
We can still hear you, Kirsten. We can still hear you.
Okay, I'm hearing some strange noises. But we're using, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use this data to create a resource package that outlines best practices for seniors and those working with seniors to stop bullying, so that there'll be the implementation process in place so that people have something tangible to work with. Slide, please. So the survey itself it's with older adults, 55 plus. You'll see that when we put the grant together, we were saying Ottawa, Peterborough region, Toronto, Halton, Peel. But that said, because our recruitment is going across the internet and senior centers across Ontario, we're hoping to capture more than that, just that limited area. Okay, now my screen's gone. And so we're recruiting across Ontario. So this will include those living in the community as well as those residing in seniors residence. The geographic regions are rural and urban. And you'll notice that we've got as the languages, the two official languages, English and French. But in order to capture a larger audience, we identified those languages identified by the Ontario government as those most spoken as ESL, which is Punjabi, and I've learned it's in fact Indian Punjabi, simplified Chinese, Portuguese, Italian, and Spanish. So we're going to be making the surveys available online in those languages as well. All surveys are available through the Senior Bullying Project web pages, which you have the link here, and it's currently up and running. Rochelle, can you go to the link?
Yeah, did you want me to go to it now, or I can go to it near the end, because I just have to
we can go to it
see
near the end.
Perfect.
Why don't we go to the end? That'll make it easier for everybody. So we've got the web pages available, and then we've also got surveys will be available in print and online. So there's the online link, but there's print versions of the surveys are all in all the identified languages. If you know of older adults who don't necessarily have access to the internet or don't feel comfortable doing an online survey, if you email the project team, we can send out the surveys to your location with self-addressed envelopes. The English survey is currently up and running. We're in the process of getting making the French one live and the other languages live as well. Can you turn the slide, please? Now, the questions themselves, what we're tapping into is how prevalent is bullying behavior among older adults in Ontario? According to the existing literature from Boniface, she's estimating that 20% of older adults experience bullying behavior. In the Netherlands, it was 19%. But yet, Frank Wood, when he did his PhD in a nursing home, 50% of people reported that they had experienced bullying behavior. So we really don't know what the data is going to show. But we're also very much interested in knowing what types of behavior are occurring. And the typical profile of someone who is bullied and someone who engages in bullying behavior. You notice we don't use the term victim or bully because it's really the behaviors we're focused on. And oftentimes people don't necessarily know they might be engaged in bullying behavior. During our pilot study, we in fact found that one respondent didn't realize that she bullied until she actually filled in the survey and then realized that some of the behavior she was engaging in was bullying behavior. So we also want to know the reasons for bullying and the perceived consequences of bullying. So slide, please. But what's really important is not only getting this data, but actually doing something with it so that it's very practical, it's very applied, it doesn't just sit in the ivory towers. And we're going to be doing that constantly through our website. So as the data comes in, we're going to be uploading it on the website. But also what we're hoping to do in autumn of 2018, so this autumn, having another webinar to be able to present some of the updates and some of the data that's come in so that you as stakeholders already have this information and it's starting to roll out for you to be able to use. Now, the official implementation phase is phase 2. During that time, we'll be holding 4 workshops. One in the Halton Peel region area, which will, in all likelihood, be at Sheridan College at the Oakville campus. we want one in the GTA, in the southeast Peterborough area, and in Ottawa. So that they'll actually be the location of 4 specific workshops. There'll be full-day workshops where we'll be working with stakeholders to start to look at the data itself and seeing ways that it can be rolled out and used. So during that time, with stakeholders across Ontario, we're going to be obtaining feedback on the data and using the data and the feedback to develop resource package of best practices for older adults, frontline staff, and agencies, so that there's something tangible to be able to use to create prevention and to respond to bullying. Because it's really interesting. I was reading about an insurance company. The Church Mutual Insurance Company was stressing the importance of taking action to protect your agency and your residents against bullying behaviors, but they don't really tell you how. So this is the work towards how. Now the website itself, if we could go to the website, then you can see it already. So for Shelley, if you could go to the website, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, I'm just going to escape out of the slide deck.
Okay.
Let's see if it lets me. There we go. And so here it is on the screen.
So at the moment, it's embedded in the Sheridan, so you can see it, it's in the Sheridan College website. And it basically has an introduction to the website itself, but there's already the click there to the link to the survey that's functional. And so if Rochelle, you could get to the link, that would be amazing. Yay! I'm so glad it's Rochelle doing this and not me, because we already saw what happened with me in technology. So it takes you to the launch site for the survey. Currently, only the English-speaking survey is up, but we're going to be loading the French one and then the other languages subsequently. And in it opens up with online consent, and then it moves into the survey questions itself. You can easily go into it yourselves in order to explore it, look at the questions. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact us. Now, the process with regard to going forward, if we go to slide 21. So as we're moving forward, our website and our survey went live on June 1st. And the online is available in the English version currently. The other one should be uploaded by the end of the week. It's SurveyMonkey. For print versions, you can see to contact the Senior Bullying Project at sheridancollege.ca. Also, so the Senior Bullying Project link will be available through Sheridan, but also through Elder Abuse Ontario as well. So you could go directly through the link, or you can also find it through the Sheridan College website and also through Elder Abuse Ontario. The print versions, you can already start contacting us if you know of older adults who don't have access to the internet, who don't feel comfortable with online surveys. You can call or email for the print version, and we'll send them in self-addressed envelopes. The next webinar would be in autumn 2018. And in the summer of 2019 is when we're hoping to have the workshops. That's when the plan is. And that the resource packages and the final reports will be available in spring of 2020. And that said, though, it's not as if we're going to leave, desert you, and then come back at the end. There will be updates on the website on a continual basis.
So just before we go to questions, thank you, Kirsten and Pat, for presenting. And like I said, we're really excited to be participating and to be a partner in the research. And I think we've been working on this for 2 years now, and just getting to the definition alone was a task, because we had to really make that distinction between abuse and bullying behavior. And when we were looking at the work that had been done by Bonnie and the Ottawa group, and the questions that they were asking, and using and adapting those questions, was quite a process, as well as getting the REB, right? Going through the ethics clearance. So we're really excited to look at what type of bullying are we seeing? Is it antisocial? Is it verbal? Is it physical? Is it based on any of those isms, right? Is it racism? Is it ableism? Um, and so we're really excited to take a look at the results, and then, as Kirsten and Pat said, to really focus our efforts on developing a resource package. Now, the consultants with Elder Abuse Ontario do presentations on bullying. What is senior bullying, the definitions, and some intervention strategies. But like I said, there's so much research that has been done in the States. And so when we were looking at, statistics for Canada, they were very few and far between. And there's a slide earlier that Pat spoke to that kind of showed you what was done in Canada. And so just having the research is something that we're really excited to have. Now, just a reminder, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day is coming up. We do have our provincial campaign, which is the Seeds for Change, growing the conversation. And that's the partnership that we have with It's Not Right program through Western University. So we are going to be hosting events across the province, and you can go to our website. We have a WEAD website here, and you can find out what events are going on and how can you get involved. Now, a reminder to people, because as Kirsten had mentioned, as people are going through the survey, they may, feel overwhelmed. They might be feeling sad or angry about their current situation, or they might be unclear as to, is it abuse that I'm, that's occurring, or is it bullying? And so anyone can call the Senior Safety Line. This line is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in 150 languages. So this is a partnership that Elder Abuse Ontario has with the Assaulted Women's Helpline. And these are trained counselors that can provide supportive counseling over the phone, information, and referral. And so they can connect the older adult to the most appropriate resource based on where they live. We have a lot of different social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have PSAs on our YouTube channel. And if you're interested in upcoming webinars or conferences, please go to our website and you can subscribe to our newsletter, and you will be updated in terms of any upcoming events. Our website will host the link to the Seniors Bullying survey, as well as we have a lot of different tools and resources on our website that address the different types of abuse. We have a tab called Help for Seniors that has a lot of different resources on moving in with family, communication and healthy relationships, protecting your finances. And we also have core elder abuse modules directed for service providers that include definitions, warning signs, decision trees, as well as provincial resources. So there are the three of us that are connected with the research through the Seniors Bullying Prevalence Study. It's myself, Rochella, Rayanne Rideout, who is our Central East consultant based out of Peterborough, and Stephanie, our East consultant, who is also bilingual, who is based out of Ottawa. So I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm going to open up the question box here. And there's a question. It is, what is the deadline for sending in completed surveys?
Okay, so with regard to the deadline itself, we would be taking we will be taking the surveys themselves right until, I'm going to check today. Until we even know what's happening is with regard to spring and summer 2019, where we're going to have the stakeholder workshops. Ideally, we would have the majority of the surveys in by early March of this year. But that said, if they continue to trickle in until June, that's fine. We'd be able to adjust our data accordingly, and it wouldn't have as great an impact. But ideally, it would be the beginning of March 2019.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Kirsten. So surveys ideally will be open until March 2019. So there's another question here. I manage a senior center in Toronto, and I am happy to send the link to our membership. But is there any way for us to know about the data results related to our membership? Looking for information on trends to us specifically. So that's a great question.
It's an excellent question. With regard to the people that are associated with your agency specifically and your organization specifically, no, because they are anonymous questionnaires. But that said, what is in the survey itself is location. So we do ask for demographic location. And our demographics that we're looking at is what region of Ontario you were in. So we'll be able to identify who's in Northern Ontario, so North Bay and above, Central Ontario, Eastern Ontario, Western Ontario, and the Greater Toronto Area, which includes Halton, Peel, York, and Durham. Does that help?
Said yes, thank you.
Oh, lovely.
Okay.
You'll also, can I add one thing? You'll notice that our research ethics board approval is through George Brown College. The reason why it's through George Brown College and not through Sheridan College is because I'm the chair of the Sheridan Research Ethics Board. And my concern was it would be a conflict of interest if it went through the Sheridan board, and we wanted this project to have great scrutiny with regard to ensuring that we've dotted all our I's and crossed all our T's.
Great, thank you. So if anyone else has any other questions or comments, you know, one of the things that when we were looking at the application is, you know, whether or not older adult centers, because when we were looking at where we're going to be doing the survey, and I think you kind of touched on this, Kirsten, is that we're going to be doing them, we're looking at older adults that are attending older adult centers or seniors active living centers, people that are living in the community, and people that are in a retirement home, but we weren't looking at older adults that are in long-term care facilities. So we're not going to be, I don't know, Kirsten, if you wanted to talk about that.
So what ended up, we're not specifically targeting long-term care facilities. Also, one of the reasons why we've decided to really try to get for people living in the community and seniors apartments is because previously the work from Bonifaz was done within a residence. And it was actually in the area more with regard to stressful behaviors and coping. The Wood project was in a nursing home. And so it's very much where we want it to be more, capture the larger picture of Ontario itself. But that said, because it's an online survey, that if people have access to the internet and they complete the survey, there won't be that exclusion criteria. But we're not going to be targeting people in long-term care facilities.
Yeah. Thank you for, oh, okay, so we're getting more questions coming in. Thank you for explaining that. And I think, you know, there was a lot of research that was done by Dr. Lynn McDonald that it actually addressed resident-to-resident aggression or resident-to-resident abuse. And what they had found through that study was that there were more people who were the quote-unquote perpetrators that had a dementia.
Yes.
And didn't want that complication of, you know, is there really intent to, you know, or, you know, when we're looking at unconsciously bullying behavior, a lot of the times a person with dementia, it would be unconscious. So we just wanted to sort of steer clear from those types of complications at this point in the research. There's another question here. Are you folks doing any education to senior centers about this survey? I know from Elder Abuse Ontario, if you wanted to connect with your regional consultant, we'd be more than happy to do a seniors bullying presentation to your older adult group, and then have a slide where we talk about the bullying survey. And maybe what you can do on your end is to print the survey for the attendees, or if you have a computer lab, maybe people can then take the survey. I don't know if, Kirsten, if you had anything else to add in terms of Jordan and Rebecca and what they'll be doing.
Also, I unfortunately didn't hear the beginning, so I was at a disadvantage with regard to that. I apologize again for our technical difficulty here. But we have two absolutely amazing research assistants, Jordan Souza and Rebecca Rodriguez. They're here at the Sheridan Elder Research Center, and these two wonderful students have actually been working very diligently. They were the ones that loaded up the translated surveys into SurveyMonkey and also spotted an error in one of them, in the Punjabi one, so I was really quite impressed. But if you email the Senior Bullying Project at sheridancollege.canada, they will be able to send out surveys to you as well. We're in the process of getting a specific extension number here at Sheridan that both Rebecca and Jordan will have access to. So if rather than emailing, you call with regard to a request for the print version, they'll be able to send it out.
Great. Thank you, Kirsten. And in terms of if you wanted a presentation prior to people doing the survey, contact your elder abuse consultant, and we'd be more than happy to book a date to come out and speak to your older adult group and talk about the survey. So there's another question here, or could you describe a few of the most prevalent examples you have seen to date of bullying behavior senior to senior? I know I have a couple, but Pat or Kirsten?
I don't have a specific one at this point.
Okay. Kirsten?
The only ones that I've heard of to date and why it really resonated with me was in relation to the LGBT community and the whole idea of people who had worked so hard to come out of the closet and make themselves be able to be true to themselves, and then again, but this is more in residence where they ended up going into a senior's apartment and then being bullied because of that type of a behavior and how painful that can be. Also, just examples and this is anecdotal, where people have said about in relation to exclusion, where they're not included at, where people are saving tables, and it's really obvious that they're saving them because they don't want that particular person sitting down with them.
Yeah, so the antisocial bullying. And I would say from the calls that I've received in the Central West area, there have been a couple of times where I've actually co-presented with the senior support officer, because the senior support officer had been getting calls to come out to deal with criminal harassment, as well as, people damaging each other's property. And what was interesting when we were doing, the presentation together, a lot of the issues surrounded around racism,
Mm-hmm.
ableism. So people just, being forced to live in a communal environment where maybe they didn't have a lot of exposure to, being around people from other cultures that cook different food, celebrated different holidays. And as a result, what we would see is cliques, almost like, if you ever watched the movie Mean Girls, but cliques of people who didn't like a certain group of people or an individual, and would purposely not allow them to come into the common rooms, game rooms, doing silly things like leaving nasty notes on somebody's door saying, go back to your country. Things like that, that were really, really nasty and had a really long psychological impact on the older adult who was being bullied, and led to them being really isolated in their building and in their community. Now, similarly, we've done a couple of sessions, or I've done a couple of sessions at a Toronto older adult center where, as Kirsten had mentioned, a lot of things centered around people saving chairs, or if somebody new came to a euchre game, for example, nobody wanted to play with that person if they had any type of memory problem. So a lot of the things that I've seen really center around those things that are protected under the Ontario Human Rights Code. So as Kirsten mentioned, sexual orientation, gender identity, a person's culture, their religion, their abilities, if they're differently abled. And so, these are the things that we're getting, at Elder Abuse Ontario, we're getting these calls to come in and do a presentation to the group. And, we're talking about bullying behavior. So we're not pinpointing anyone, but we're talking about bullying behavior. And you can see the light bulbs going off as we're talking about the behaviors. And, very, in terms of people that are working in older adult buildings, community relation workers, they struggle with, if both people are able and capable, who what do we do? Like, how do we support these people? And if they're competing priorities, so people have their right to their culture and their religion, and people have, their right as well to their beliefs. So it's really hard when you're dealing with competing priorities sometimes. But again, we're looking at, the different, in the actual survey itself, we're going to be asking those questions. Do you feel that you were targeted because you are, any one of these, because you're differently abled, or because of your gender, or because of your culture? So we'll be asking those questions, and it'll be interesting to see if these things are happening not only in our urban areas, but also in our rural areas as well.
If I'd just like to add to that, that was one of the things that when speaking with Bonnie, that she had said if she had a wish list, I know she's there, but she's muted. I asked her, if you had a wish list, what would you have liked to have asked that you didn't? And it was one with regard to the impact on you and how did you respond. So we're also asking that.
Yeah.
As Rochella had said, we're looking at also perceived reasons. So included as well is age. Do you feel you were being bullied because of your age? And also your religion as well, we've included.
And yes, so there's another question here, or comment. I did not see the survey in Arabic, in the Arabic language. So just to answer that person's question, we had to, we only have minimal funding, and we had to sort of look at the top 5 languages. And so those were the top 5 languages designated by the provincial government. So that's why we chose to translate the surveys in those languages. However, if we did have, increased funding, or if your organization wanted to apply for funding, you could always look at getting the survey translated. I know for our organization, we have to use MCIS. We have to use designated interpreters or translators. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, Kirsten or Pat, about why it's not in Arabic?
No, it's exactly that. That was basically the reasons why we did that. Was we looked at what the top 5 languages, other than the 2 official languages, as identified by the Ontario government. And even specifically with regard to why we chose the versions we chose, when we had to make a distinction between Indian Punjabi versus Pakistani Punjabi, and it was Indian Punjabi that was identified.
Thank you. And so there's another question here. I work in Brantford and Brant County. Are you interested in obtaining surveys from this area?
Definitely.
Yeah, anywhere in Ontario.
Yes, anywhere in Ontario.
So there's another comment here. I have a gay neighbor, in brackets, young male senior, who is being bullied by another neighbor, in brackets, an older female senior. She calls him horrible names and sticks her tongue out at him when driving by. He is always very upset by this behavior, which is never witnessed. She is careful to only behave badly when no one is around. I would have no hesitation in being a witness if I observe this bullying. This bully is part of a religious group. I have already placed a notice in her mailbox stating that the police should be contacted if this harassment is observed. What can he do if there are never any witnesses? It becomes a he says, she says situation.
Yeah. No.
So Pat or
I didn't know if you were going to handle that, Rochella.
Oh, okay. So one of the things that that we would suggest in that situation is he can actually call the senior safety line for emotional support. In terms of this neighbor, are you in a condominium? Are you in an older adult building that is owned by a municipality or a region? Do you have community relation workers working in that building? So really depending on the setting would sort of direct the course of action. So for example, if this was occurring in a retirement community or retirement home, then you would call the Retirement Homes Regulatory Authority. If you were in a condominium, then maybe you would want to approach the condo board and to talk about some education and training for all of the people that are there, or to have a zero tolerance policy around abuse or bullying behavior. If this is just, a residential street, then if there's something that is criminal in nature, then definitely you can call the police. I know that when we did the presentations with their senior support officers, it was really hard. As you mentioned, it often became a he said, she said. And, if there was nothing actually criminal in nature, then there was not really much that they could do besides sort of talk to the quote unquote perpetrator or the bully and sort of say, don't behave in the way that you're behaving. So I hope I answered your question, but if I didn't, please connect with me and we can explore other options. There's a question here. If things were not,
Rochella?
yeah,
sorry.
please do.
This is one of the things as well with regard to our resource pack, what we're looking towards, working towards, and that's the idea of also responses from the people who have been bullied themselves. So to look at ways, so to start to work together to come up with best practices for people who experience this type of behavior, the different options that they have available, not only through the formal channels, but also we're asking people in this survey how they've responded to bullying, if somebody was a witness, a bystander to a bullying situation, how they responded, so that we can start to gather information on what type of responses work.
And I think that's really important because there are a lot of bystanders, and it would be interesting to see, what their take is on it and what they think that should be done to address the situation. So there's a question here. If they print out the survey, how can they submit it?
There is, we have for the print versions, we have self-addressed envelopes that they can send back. If they choose to print it off the Survey Monkey and they want to send it to us, we'll have a mailing address as well on the bullying website.
Okay, so then there's another question, and I think we may have already answered this. Have you dealt with any issues around bullying and racism re multicultural active living centers? Yes. So a lot, and the example I provided earlier, there's a lot of the bullying did center around things that are protected under the Ontario Human Rights Code, a lot of racism, a lot of ableism, ageism, and so on.
What's really interesting too is the idea that people don't, you know, it isn't as if you're a child bully and it just stops. If you engage in bullying behavior as a child, chances are you'll start to refine it and engage in the behavior that get the responses that you want. And that's why there's that whole concept that the mean girls just don't go away.
Yeah, absolutely. And so is it possible that this call for survey be presented by guest speaker to the senior group in different cities like Windsor? So to answer that person's question, yes. So you can contact your regional consultant that covers the Windsor area. I believe it's Sheila, and she can do a presentation on seniors bullying and include some slides on the survey. And what you can do is either you can order or obtain the survey, print them for the older adults, and you can mail them in. Or if you have a computer lab, then you can ask them to go to the computer and they can do the survey online. Okay. So Colleen, maybe you can connect with us after the webinar and we can look at answering that question. So we do have some people that are joining us over the phone. I see that Eva has her hand raised. So Eva, I'm going to unmute you if you wanted to ask a question.
Hi, Rochella.
Hi.
Yes, the question I have, is there an outreach strategy that has been developed regarding the survey to reach First Nations and Indigenous seniors?
So with regards to outreach specifically to Indigenous elders and seniors, we haven't done that. We haven't specifically targeted any particular group. Instead, it's more of a global reach out. And from the Elder Abuse Ontario, I'm not aware. I have to ask Rochella. Are there any Indigenous agencies that are connected?
Yes, actually, we just had a conference at Six Nations. So definitely one of the things that we can do is we can send out, we can send out the information, the slides, or connect with the health centers, Aboriginal health networks, and let them know that we will be conducting this survey. So yeah, I think that with all of the communities, like our South Asian community, our Italian or Portuguese community, like all of our communities, we'll have to look at contacting senior centers or community groups and let them know that this survey will be out. And one of the things that we're asking everybody that's here on the webinar is, now that you know about this survey, if you're connected to a group, please let them know that we have this survey out and that they can complete it. If you feel that you want a presentation to sort of introduce what the survey is, then like I said, please connect with your regional consultant and they can work with you to find a time to do a presentation. So thank you, Eva. Did that answer your question?
To some extent. I mean, because you have made 5 languages, priority languages, that in itself suggests that it's part of an outreach strategy. And I think outreach is absolutely critical to the success, the broad success of achieving survey results from a broad cross sector of elders and seniors in the province. So for sure, in the area that I serve, I will be making sure that everyone is in the loop about this opportunity, and my colleagues in the rest of the province hopefully will do the same.
That's
Thank you, Eva. I know that you will. You're a great ambassador.
That's one of the things that I had said there when we were talking about who the team is. The team is not only those names that were listed, but all the stakeholders. To make this project effective and that we can actually do the very best that we can and be able to get the most information in order to inform practice, we need everybody to engage in outreach with the various different communities so that everybody's voice is heard.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to see if there's anyone else that's on the phone that wanted to ask a question. Usually they'll just raise their hand or they'll send something in the chat box. So, okay. So people are just saying thank you. Are there any other questions about the prevalence study? So while we're waiting for questions, I actually do have 2 poll questions. So for those of you that are joining us online, I have 2 questions for you, and you can actually just use your computer to answer the question. The first question is, I have witnessed older adults exhibiting bullying behavior. I'm going to stop it at 25 seconds. Okay. So 62% yes, 35% said no, and 4% said unsure, and we had 70 people respond to that question. So I'm going to ask you the second question. Seniors bullying is an issue that I have faced in my workplace. And I'll give you 30 seconds. Okay, we can hear some stuff in the background. Not sure who that is. I'm just going to close that poll. And so, so we're split right down the middle. 50% said yes and 50% said no. We had 70% of people voting on that. So seniors bullying is an issue that I have faced in my workplace. 50% said yes, 50% said no. So interesting. Okay, so I'm just going to check and see if we have any other questions. I don't see any right now. Okay, so there doesn't appear to be any other questions. The slides will be sent to everyone that registered electronically, so I'll send that in an email. We will also post a recording and a PDF copy of the slides on our website in a couple of weeks. Please do take a look at the survey, and please let everybody that you know that you're working with that the survey is up and live. And I'd really like to just say thank you to Pat and Kirsten, as well as everybody from the Sheridan team. We have Catherine, we have Jordan, and we have Rebecca, who are part of the seniors bullying research. And we look forward to hosting another webinar in the autumn of this year to hopefully have some idea in terms of the results that are coming in. And, you know, we would like to host those 4 focus groups. So if you have a center in one of those regions and you'd like to host us, we'd be more than happy to work with you. And just people are saying thank you so much. We're looking forward to more information. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Kirsten, Pat, did you have anything else to say?
Also, I just wanted to add that if anybody has any questions, once you have a chance to go over the survey, if you have some questions with regard to the survey questions themselves or the format, please feel free to email me directly. I'm more than happy to respond.
Rochelle, it's Pat. I don't have a lot more to say at this point, but I just want to comment on Eva's question about the outreach strategy and just to really emphasize how important that is for all stakeholders, everyone on the line today, to really do our part in reaching out. We've done a lot of surveys over the years, and I can tell you that the hardest thing is making sure that the people that we want to have filling them out actually get them. So we want to really ensure, to the extent we can, a very robust response to this one. It's such an important.
Thank you, Pat. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for the webinar today. Please look and check your inbox for the PDF copy of the slides. You can also go right now to the handout section and download the slides there as well. And thank you to Kirsten and Pat. I know that we'll be in constant contact as we continue with the research, and I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.